Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday morning. It is 8:10. I'm on my third video already. Yay. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. I'm just going to talk a little bit today just to make sure that we stay caught up with where we need to be. I'm getting a little bit nervous. So we're going to dive back in. We're on page 9. And remember, we had that discussion about why the page numbers are weird because the scientific revolution was first. So we ended up talking about John Locke. And again, really important. John Locke, Machiavelli, two people you really need to know inside and out and everything about them. All right, so on the next part of our discussion is a group of people. And obviously they're French. I'm going to try my best French pronunciation. Philosophes. The philosophes. I like saying that. I have to write it out as philosophed. Philosophes. They are committed to fundamental reform change in society. And they view this as a commitment to this enlightened ideals. So we're going to pause for a second and make sure that I have fully explained to you this idea of the Enlightenment. And what we're going to talk about really doesn't change much. And the reason being is all of these people that we're going to talk about in the Enlightenment, all of them are either noble or of wealthy birth. They move in upper circles, and they're just talking with people in their own upper circles. And nothing really trickles down yet, right? Nothing's going to trickle down. And for the most part, people in the salons and in the fancy places like to hear them talk, but the reality of this society change doesn't really make much change, right? It's not going to change much because they're not talking to the right people. So that's what we're going to start with, the philosophes. They are committed, but again, they're talking in their own circles. They're talking amongst themselves, which doesn't do much to really create a lot of change. So they were extremely successful in popularizing the Enlightenment. So it's popular. People talk about it. People read about it. But again, because they're not talking to the right people, it's not going to get a lot of change. By 1775, much of Western Europe's educated elite, please draw attention to that educated elite, had embraced the Enlightenment. And it's easy for them, right? Because they don't have to make any change. And the change that is happening is within government that they like. So again, this is the issue with the Enlightenment. Believed in progress through discovering the natural laws that govern nature. Again, this is a whole lot of this natural laws, nature, radical optimistic about how people should live and govern themselves. So the philosophes are first. They popularized the movement, meaning it is a popular movement, meaning secondarily, you're not going to die for talking about these things in polite society. But at the same time, nothing's really going to happen, right? They're just talking. One of my favorite, I got this, I never can get this right. Okay, so there we go. I feel like I'm a big giant head. One of my favorite musicals, because I love musicals, is The Music Man. And in The Music Man, there is a really fun, because I did The Music Man when I was in high school. There was a fun part of The Music Man where all these ladies are talking about gossiping, and it's kind of around, and they sing, pick a little, tuck a little, pick a little, tuck a little, cheep, 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 tuck a lot, pick a little more. That's what they're doing, talking and writing stuff down, nothing changing. Voltaire. Please note the very first line after Voltaire, perhaps the most influential of all the enlightened informers. So whomever has Voltaire in their TikTok and you are trying to get me to invite you to my salon, that would be a really important selling point, that you are the most influential philosopher of the Enlightenment. He writes his criticism with a sharp wit that ridiculed those whom he disagreed. His biggest challenge is the church, right? Now, we have to make sure that we separate. It's not religion. It's the church. That is he's the biggest critic of the church. That's what you need to make sure. He is a strong deist, believed that prayers and miracles do not fit with natural law. You can't pray something to happen. It's already going to happen. You can't think that a miracle is going to happen because God created this earth. Creation has natural laws. These things don't happen. In the Catholic Church, miracles are really an important part. In any church, prayers are really an important part. And he believes, again, reason is the key to society, not religious faith. How is society going to progress? How is society going to get better? Through education, not through religious faith. This is a side note. Voltaire doesn't educate any of his children. He plops them down in an orphanage and leaves them there. Yikes. His influential social criticism inspired many to call for change, setting the stage for the French Revolution. He gets a lot of credit for the French Revolution. Again, next chapter, not talking about that now. The bottom of this page, you need to be able to recite quite a few of the things that Voltaire believes in. He hates bigotry, he hates injustice, and he calls for religious toleration. So in that aspect, he's way ahead of his time. He is most famous, and this is really what he's known for, is crush the infamous thing. And what he's talking about is the church, not religion, because he believes in God. He believes God created the universe and it runs perfectly and in all those things. But what he wants to crush is the church, the taking of religion and making it into an oppressive institution. That's what he says, crush the infamous thing. Although Voltaire was raised as a Christian, he came to distrust organized religion, right? It's that thing that he does not trust, the organized religion as the church, as corrupt in its leadership and moving away from the central message of Jesus. He's got no problem with Jesus. He has a problem with religion and the organized church. He advocated enlightened despotism, a more benevolent way of absolutism, believing that people were incapable of governing themselves. This is the step they won't take. So when we look at these people in this time period, we have to think about when people are crossing these big segments of change in society and in population. You know, they've got one foot cemented in how they grew up and how they lived, and that other foot trying to step and make change. So Voltaire's foot is cemented in this idea that, I don't really trust people to govern themselves. We really need us, the smart kind of elite people, to govern those people. That's his foot stuck in the past. When we look at these people that are on the cusp of making great change, that's what you always need to look for, is what keeps them grounded in the past. And everybody's going to have a different foot stuck there. For Voltaire, it's government. I do not trust these people to govern themselves. They need us, wealthy elite, to make sure that they don't go crazy and run amok. That's what he thinks. That is where he's similar to Hobbes. Hobbes says the same thing. We need a strong government or these people are going to run amok. Amok, amok, amok. That was my homage to Hocus Pocus. Amok, amok, amok. His views influence several enlightened despots, which we'll get our enlightened despots at the end of the chapter. Frederick the Great, Catherine the Great, Joseph II, believed in equality before the law, but not the equality of the classes. So there's his foot stuck, cemented back in the past, like, I don't want you to think you're equal to me when we're moving in society, but in front of the law, sure, you can be equal. That's that bridging of his past with the future. Almost all of our enlightened thinkers are going to be that way. It's hard to 100% throw away your past. So that's Voltaire. Most important, crush the infamous thing, enlightened despots, equality in front of the law, but not in class. Our next guy is Baron de Montesquieu. And again, Baron is like one of the highest noble titles, like right next to a king. So again, here's a guy writing about enlightenment who has lived a privileged, sheltered, wealthy life, right? And he's going to write about government. Montesquieu is perhaps one of the most important enlightened government thinkers. He's certainly going to have a gigantic impact on the United States. And when we go through that, you'll begin to see. Voltaire doesn't have any books that you need to remember. As I say that about my face getting all close, I get so close to the camera. Montesquieu has a book. You need to remember Spirit of the Laws. That's the name of his book, Spirit of the Laws. He is definitely a member of French nobility. A baron is a really high up title. But he gets to see up close and personal the absolutism of Louis XIV, and he hates it. So that's, again, he sees why we need a new path, right? So his thing that he's going to be stretching to overcome is this hatred of absolutism. He doesn't want to give up his title. He doesn't want to give up his wealth. That's his foot cemented. But he does want to give up this idea of absolutism. So he writes this book called Spirit of the Laws. And this Spirit of the Laws calls for separation of powers, which, if you know anything about the government of the United States, that's essential. Separation of powers into, take a guess, 3 branches. Now, it's not our 3 branches in the United States, but it's 3 branches. His 3 branches would be the monarchy, that's one. The monarchy, the king, nobility, him, and the rest of the population. That's his foot stuck. I don't want to give up my privilege of being a nobility. So I'm going to keep myself there. The goal of his 3 branches is to prevent tyranny and to promote liberty. And then the second part that should, those of you that pay any attention to government and politics, this phrase, checks and balances. The principle of checks and balances would ensure that no single branch of the government would become too powerful, as the other 2 branches could check that power. So that's his foot going into the new, like, this is a new way that we're going to give the rest of the population an opportunity to check the power of the other. Now, in all likelihood, is that ever really going to work? Because it's really kind of what the Estates General is, right? It's these branches checking the other. But what's going to happen probably almost all the time is the nobility and the monarchy are going to bind together because they don't want to give up their privilege. He favored the British system of a monarch and a parliament and independent courts. So he, again, looks to Great Britain. A lot of these enlightened thinkers will look to Great Britain. He supported the 13 parliaments, which again is judicial branches, courts, as a check against absolute rule by a monarch. He's not going to have a large impact in France, but I hope you see he will have a gigantic, humongous influence in the United States. Our entire government is based off of the Spirit of Laws, Baron Montesquieu. So, Montesquieu. Our last guy we're going to look at today is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And remember, these are all guys. Even though it looks like Jean and it looks like Jackie, it is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He is very important. Probably, in my eyes, if I was ranking them, he'd be more important than Voltaire, but I don't get to write the book. I think he's more important than Voltaire, Rousseau. And he writes another book you have to know. It's called The Social Contract. And he believed there was too much emphasis on property. And property is what causes all things to go bad. It causes war. It causes conflict between neighbors. It causes conflict between towns. Everything is caused by property, and not enough consideration is given to the people. And so he believes in this thing called the general will. A consensus of the majority should control a nation. And again, when we think of a majority rules, we always think that implies democracy. It does imply democracy if you're part of the majority. But if you're in the minority, that's not ever, 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 ever going to be democracy, because you're never going to get spoken up for. You're always going to be in the minority. Again, minority viewpoints not recognized. And again, that's not democracy. Though these ideas seem to support democracy, the ambiguous nature of the general will was later manipulated and will be manipulated by lots and lots of dictators. At the top of page 11, though considered part of the Enlightenment, Rousseau is more accurately seen as the founder of the Romantic movement, which is why I like him. He is part of the Romantic movement. He is, again, definitely an enlightened figure, but he's more important and will be more important to the Romantic movement. After the French Revolution, the Enlightenment emphasis on reason gives way to the glorification of emotion, and that will be what Rousseau does. Rousseau believed that a man in a simpler state of nature was good, a noble savage that was corrupted by the materialism of civilization. So Rousseau kind of takes Locke and Hobbes and mixes them together and calls mankind a noble savage. And what this means, a noble savage in chains, what this means is when we're born, we are born with noble intentions. And what makes us a savage is this drive and belief that we have to have things. Without things, we're noble. With these materialistic things that come with civilization, that's what makes us a savage. So Rousseau takes those two things of Locke and Hobbes and creates this noble savage, which I kind of like the idea of. Oh my gosh, the bell again. Oh, that was a short one. See the difference of those bells? They are really different. Rousseau writes two books. One, what we would today call nonfiction, social contract, general will. And then he writes another called Emile, which is kind of a fictionist kind of look at education. Believed in progressive education, learning by doing, self-expression. Again, he's going to leave his children in an orphanage instead of educating them. These people are definitely do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so that takes us through two more. Did we do two more or did we do three? Oh, we did 4. We did the philosophes. We did Voltaire. We did Baron von Montesquieu. Baron is not his first name, right? He's titled. And Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Okay, do not get him. I had some people confusing him with Jacques Cousteau, the undersea guy. It's not the same. All right, so this is the end of our lecture for today. We don't have any other things going on. I want to take this time to wish you guys a really happy Thanksgiving, and also really hope that you follow all of our COVID guidelines, wearing a mask, social distancing, washing your hands, because I would really, really, really rather be having this conversation and this lecture with you guys in the room, asking me questions, because I know you have questions. And we can't do that like this. So please, please, please do all the things that you know that will keep us safe. So Monday, November 30th, we're all back in here together, not an A and B schedule, not me talking to you like this, in our classroom with questions. And Emma will be back. Yay. And I hope you're feeling well, Emma. All right. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time off and hope to see all of us back together on Monday.